On this day 70 years ago, Japanese soldiers stormed into what was then the capital of China and began a campaign of murder and rape that continued for weeks.
The Chinese claim up to 300,000 people were killed, many of them women and children. The atrocities became known as the Rape of Nanking. Tony Birtley reports now from the city, where memories of the massacre are still threatening ties between Japan and China.
A contingent of soldiers of China's People's Liberation Army at the opening ceremony of a new museum extension, but it's not a tranquil place. The wreaths they carry are in commemoration of one of the nation's darkest moments. The Nanjing Massacre Museum is filled with haunting images, a journey into the past and a terrible insight into the barbarity of man. It's dedicated to more than 300,000 people the Chinese say were slaughtered by the Japanese invading army. These bones are the remains of one of the worst single acts of genocide in the 20th century. Exactly 70 years ago, the Japanese took control of the city, which was the headquarters of Chinese Kuomintang, the National People's Party. What followed was 6 weeks of rape and slaughter. Surrendering Chinese soldiers were killed, but the majority were civilians. Mr. Xiang Yuansong was 10 years old when the Japanese came. He is one of a handful of survivors still alive. I saw bodies lying on both sides of the road. They were everywhere, he told me. The Japanese killed my brother and raped my sister. I can remember everything like it was yesterday.
This museum is built on an area where unimaginable horrors were committed by Japanese soldiers in 1937. Decapitations, mutilations, executions of civilians. There are stories of children being bayoneted to death and pregnant women having their fetuses cut from their stomachs. And here, the so-called 10,000 Corpse Trench, where upwards of 10,000 people were buried, some of them still alive.
Xuanwu Gate still stands, but more than a third of the city was destroyed. Today, Nanjing is a modern city with a population of 7 million. The Japanese dispute the number of dead. Some say it was only a few hundred, and some call it an incident, not a massacre. Many Chinese believe Japan has not fully atoned for its crime.
The largest right-wing organization in Japan denied the existence of Rape of Nanjing and the comfort of women. The number of these people is about a quarter of all the congressmen in Japan, even including 8 cabinet members and the Prime Minister.
Recently, there has been a slight warming of relations between Japan and China, but what happened at Nanjing is something which has seriously affected relations in the past. At 88, Mr. Cheng Yung is one of the oldest living survivors. He was shot 3 times in his leg. He can't forget what the Japanese did, but he can now forgive.
We should educate the younger generation, both in China and Japan, to be more friendly towards each other in the future. We should never ever let such a tragedy happen again.
What was known then as the Rape of Nanking is largely forgotten by the outside world. It didn't compare with the Holocaust, but to the survivors, this city and China, it was just as devastating. Tony Birtley, Al Jazeera, Nanjing.